Hello everyone, welcome to our second podcast. Unfortunately today Mr. Warwick is feeling a bit under the weather, so has some sniffles, so apologies if they are a bit irritating, but I will try and keep it under control.
Okay, they're pretty terrible.
Okay, I'll try. Okay, so today we thought we would quickly start by recapping what we looked at in our first podcast, which was all about introducing you to Armstrong and his essay here, and the approach he is taking. In particular, the emphasis he's putting on science as a way to answer those big questions. And what you can see here on the slide is what we looked at, this idea of scientism, and which was this belief in science and its ideas and its ability to answer these questions. And that the reason he thought it is so important and that science does provide the answers is that you can reach consensus on it, that you can come to an agreement. Wouldn't you say, Miss Fitz?
I would completely agree.
Okay.
Okay, so this slide brings us to the top of page 3 of your reading. For the next part of the podcast, you're going to have to understand two terms. Those terms are counter-argument and rebuttal. And these are very important terms in life generally. Now, just really quickly, what's a counter-argument?
A counter-argument is where you are raising an argument against somebody else's argument.
Fantastic. And what is a rebuttal?
When that person or anyone replies to somebody else's argument with a point against it.
Yeah, so rebutting something is just showing why something's wrong. Yeah, cool. Okay, so here Armstrong has just given his opinion on science, and he is now explaining a couple of different counter-arguments that people might make against his view. So, we're going to do a little play here. I'm going to be Armstrong, and Timmy's going to be a guy who disagrees with Armstrong.
Yep.
So, just go with us. So, I am Armstrong. I believe we should trust science.
And I'm saying to you that, no, you are wrong. And that... oh, God, that was terrible. And that the consensus that you rely upon can be mistaken. Like when you foolish scientists believed the world was flat. That consensus ended up to be rubbish.
So what you're saying to me is that, yeah, science is good, but it can make mistakes, so why should we trust it?
Exactly.
Well, that was a very clever counter-argument. Science may well make mistakes. Another way of saying that is that science is fallible. But, yes, it's fallible, but what better authority do we have than science? Like, what else can we trust that's more reliable than science? So, I, Armstrong, still believe that science is the only discipline that allows us to reach intellectual consensus, and therefore we should still trust it.
And is rejecting my lovely counter-argument.
Yes.
Ouch. Okay, so now we're at the bottom of page 3, and what we're about to talk about will help you with questions 3 and 4. So, I then raise a second counter-argument against Armstrong and his belief in science, and that is along the lines of that science is lovely and helps us explain plants and human body and things like that, but there are things that beyond that, outside of the sphere of science, where that it can't explain. So Armstrong gives some examples, things like whether there's a God, whether we have souls, and whether we have free will. And he says, and I say to Armstrong, that science cannot help us, and is not competent to help us address these things.
Yep. Well, that's a lovely counter-argument, but I'm going to come back at you with another rebuttal. I mean, I understand what you're saying, that science may not be able to tell us everything about the universe, but the fact is that science has given us pretty much everything we know. As Armstrong says, science has provided us with a raft of truths to bear us up on the sea of our disputatious ignorance. It's given us all we
Ouch.
know. So if science can't help us with finding out about God and the soul and free will, what can help us? Science is the best thing we have, so we should trust it.